Sure.
And so, still working on that now. I don't really know anybody that's got like a lake access.
So we have a boat, but we keep it on wood.
Oh,
So
okay.
there,
Cool.
we rent a slip there, and
Nice.
because we're like,
That's perfect.
so it works out good. It gives you time where like get off work and you're still able to get a couple hours after.
Sure.
Yeah, it's still in the water. I gotta find time to get it out of there.
Yeah.
It's like the water's cold now. Nobody wants to
ahead and call the meeting to order and call for the Pledge of Allegiance. Thank you. May I ask for a roll call?
Present.
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 Thank you very much. All right, I will ask for an approval of the agenda, a motion to approve it.
Madam Chair, Madam Chair, I move to approve the agenda for September 2024.
Do we want to modify that, or?
I don't know why I can't.
Oh, I can certainly,
Okay.
yes, we're going to add something in.
Yeah, I thought we would place it on the table first.
Oh,
so.
sorry. Okay, go ahead.
So September 24th, 2025, and if I can get a second.
Second.
And Supervisor Riley, I would like to amend the agenda to add a resolution of adopting the 2025 millage rates. It's resolution 25-21.
Support.
To new business under 9.4.
And I think I heard a support. Any discussion on this? Okay. All in favor of approving the agenda as modified?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? All right. Yeah, we're having a hard time getting our mojo today, I think. Okay. I will go ahead and open it up for public comment. Any person may come forward at this time to address the board. Anyone who wishes to speak is requested but not required to state his or her name and address for the record. Okay, seeing none, we will move on. We have an approval of the minutes. May I get a motion, please?
Madam Chair, I move to approve the minutes of the joint meeting held on September 8th, 2025.
Second.
Okay, any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right, minutes are approved. May I ask for a motion for 4.2?
Madam Chair, I move to approve the minutes of the regular meeting held on September 10th, 2025.
Second.
Okay, any discussion on this one? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, those minutes are approved as well. Moving on, asking for a motion for 4.3.
Madam Chair, I move to approve the minutes of the working session held on September 10th, 2025.
Second.
Okay, any discussion on this one? Okay, all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, so those minutes are approved as well. All right, now we're going to first open it up for a public hearing, propose the fiscal year 2026 Pittsfield Charter Township budget. I'm going to go ahead and at 6:33, open it up for public comment regarding the 2026 budget. Okay, seeing none, we're good? Okay, I'm going to go ahead and close it at 6:33. All right. And we will go ahead and move on to 5.2. We have a presentation tonight from People's Express on-demand public transportation option. You want to come on up? Introduce yourself, and we're happy to have you. Thank you so much for coming.
Yes, thank you for having us. My name is Evelina Taylor. I'm the interim managing director of People's Express. We're a local nonprofit transportation organization, and we like to say that we're driven by purpose and powered by people. As I said, I'm very thankful that we're talking tonight, and I look forward to further discussion. I guess I need to. Awesome. So quick overview. We're going to go over the background of People's Express, what transportation means to the community, and then we're going to dive into the service overview. That includes the estimated cost, the details, what the implementation looks like, and then hopefully we'll talk more about discussions and next steps. There is a dependencies I wanted to highlight. There is several supporting data factors that we put into consideration as we were pulling together this proposal. So People's Express's mission. So we are dedicated to providing safe and reliable public transportation to empower all individuals to maintain their independence and enhance their quality of life, especially to underserved populations, including but not limited to aging adults, people with disabilities, lower income, underemployed or unemployed, and those with limited access to transportation due to rural geography. Again, our mission is very important to us. A little bit of background. So we've been our own 501c since 2007, but we back it up a few steps. We actually been around since the 90s, and we were born out of our local food pantry. So what happened is they recognized the need for us to be able to connect people to the community resource, the food bank. And so we got a driver, we got a vehicle, we called the program People's Express. Quickly that grew around. Town transportation became more apparent as needed, so we set that up. Next thing you know, our neighbors came knocking and say, hey, we want community-based transportation. So we quickly grew, and today we have about a fleet of 130 vehicles, and that has allowed us to really scale to meet those local demands throughout the region. One of the things that Washtenaw County is particularly special to us because our backyard is Washtenaw County. We're currently located in Whitmer Lake, and we're actually looking at expanding in the more southern region of Washtenaw County. We also provide, we provide demand response transportation, and that's that community-based. We also, what our services are to set up for is to specifically meet the needs of non-emergency medical transportation, employment access, grocery store, and social trips. Pretty much, you name it, we got it. And I wanted to also highlight the commitment to data sharing and regular performance reporting to funding partners and local governments. People's Express is a designated recipient from the state, and that means that we have a lot of compliance umbrellas from the federal government, state government, and local, and that allows us to really customize data to meet those compliance needs between those different entities. So I wanted to take a couple minutes to talk about what transportation means to a community. If you look over to your right, you have this concept called the Mobility Leadership Circle. And what I want to really emphasize is how transportation is connected to community resources. When you're talking about food access, education, housing and utilities, employment opportunities, social and community inclusion, even gain access to elected officials like yourself, transportation is the heart of that. That kind of leads me in to say the emphasis on that communities are able to stay connected through transportation. Now, another important aspect when we're looking at a community and it being able to have a resource is the fact that any of us can become transit dependent tomorrow. And that means you want to have transportation kind of framed as a community utility. So you have your garbage pickup, that anyone can opt in to use that service. So you want to look at transportation as a means for people to have access when they need it. To do a brief overview of your current services offered by the community, we have the AATA fixed routes, which you can kind of see in those colors there, plus the ADA connector service that is in bundle with that fixed route. And then you have the flex zone kind of highlighted in the blue there. So the flex ride service right now is available Monday through Friday from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. It offers same day and next day reservations. And one thing we did want to highlight, it doesn't offer weekend services. Taking a closer look at that flex zone currently being offered and looking at the population of Pittsfield Township, we do see that there's areas outside the zone not being able to be serviced. So you have about 10,450 residents that don't have direct connection to transportation systems. That leads us to our focus here tonight is the proposal of offering demand response services township-wide. We really want to offer the transportation access to the whole community. What's also important talking with staff is the current services being offered now, we want to really maintain that service level. And so we would be looking at maintaining the weekday services Monday through Friday from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. We'll dive into this a little bit more later on, but part of implementation success is really talking on the ground with community members, understanding who's currently being serviced by this current program, and working with local business owners to really understand the community needs. So we feel that the January 1st timeframe would be able to give us ample time in order to really to be successful in an implementation plan. And then also the cost, which we'll go into further, we're looking at $227,080 to the township. So as I said, that estimated cost, if we look at 7 a.m. to 7 p.m., making sure that there's always a vehicle on the road available to the community members, we're looking at just over 3,600 vehicle hours a year at $72 an hour. We have an annual cost of $262,000 or $262,080 a year. Fortunately, People's Express has been working on the county level, and we have that older adults service millage that we're looking to put in $35,000 of those funds towards community services in Pittsfield Township. That actually lowers the township cost to $227,080. Some more service details. So really, the safe, reliable, and affordable transportation is our number one offering. Safety being number one because it is our top priority for riders. Another thing that's really important, especially when you look at those medical appointments, whether it's the doctors to dialysis, making sure those individuals don't have missed appointments. So that's where we have that emphasis on reliability. We provide demand response transportation and offer both door-to-door and curb-to-curb options depending on the accommodations needed for those individuals. And then our call center right now is open from 8 a.m. to 7 p.m. Monday through Friday, where individuals can call us up and book a ride. Those require 3 business days in advance for booking. With our vehicle fleet, we have ADA accessible vehicles, and we do have an array of fleets from minivans to transits to small buses and even cars. And I wanted to highlight that we particularly provide 37-inch wide lifts with a 1,000-pound capacity, and that allows us to accommodate those multi-type of wheelchairs. Now, when it comes to our drivers, I will say they take immense pride in what they do. They really love it, but more so, they are trained to do their job properly. We have a robust training process, and then we also have those background checks we do. And just overall, our staff is very professional, and they're trained to really respond to those community needs in that personalized customer service. So if John calls us and we recognize, oh, he's not doing the best, do we need to look into a wellness check? Is there a community social worker that we can connect them to? Sometimes there's other human service organizations that can offer them better resources than we can, and we're connected to the community partners so we can offer that to those individuals. So we really try to personalize our customer service there. This fare structure that we're proposing is very similar to our other communities. When you look at in-township services and then connecting to those AATA services is really important. We're looking at that $2 one way, and then that discounted demographic would see $1. What's also important is the Ann Arbor and Ypsilanti urban area is a hot spot when it comes to transportation, so offering affordable rates at $4 one way and $2 for that discounted group. And then there's also people that want to get to adjacent townships like Saline and Ypsilanti and offering that at $6 and $3 respectively one way. When it comes to the rest of the county, we are capacity dependent, and that would be a per mile fare structure at $2.50 and $1.25 per way. Reporting. So we are very, I would say, vast and customizable when it comes to reporting at People's Express. And again, that's due to the umbrella of the federal government, state, and their local entities. So when we're looking at the statistics that we can offer, we have that total ridership, we have trip demands by weekdays, Saturday and Sundays, passenger demographics, we can get into trip purposes, whether it's medical, dialysis specific, personal, grocery store specific, educational, and work. We also can look at where are people going to the community? Are they going outside of it? Are they going in it? When they're going in it, where are the places they want to go? And try to ask the question, why? The same goes for outside the community as well. Why are people accessing resources outside? Does that tell a story about what maybe is needed inside the community? We can also look at trends between the data points. When it comes to visuals, if we wanted to look further at those visuals, we can do heat mapping through GIS of the trip points, and then cancellation rates. Overall, again, we like to work with the community members on what data points are of interest of them and see how we can respond adequately to that. I also wanted to highlight the master plan because I found that there were several overlapping interests that we both have as an organization. And when it looks at that regional effort to support transit development, for people to be able to access the whole entire community and elsewhere, when you look at being able to coordinate and effectively promote safe transportation, safety is our top priority. We also provide accessibility and mobility for all people, and we do public transportation. Yes, we have a specialty in those older adults and those with disabilities, but it is for all. And then lastly, we want to address the needs, especially those seniors and those with special needs, by expanding bus services to more dense residential and mixed-use areas. And that's the focus of the proposal here tonight. Now, implementation, we found that the most important piece when you're introducing a community resource is the collaboration between the community and the organization. So we would want to work with the township, have an awareness campaign, and that can look like collaborative announcements between both organizations, the township newsletter, website updates. We do brochures in high frequency locations and important locations like the township hall. We could even do infographic mailers to residents. That we found success in the city of Novi when we've done that. Now, outreach is also important, sending flyers to Story Point Saline, the senior center, even the local library, having a booth at the farmers market, and connecting with other local organizations. So one of the important pieces is, when it comes to outreach, is seeing what is already out there. We don't need to reinvent the wheel, we want to connect them. Another area for implementation that we want to look at is advertising the ability to connect to important locations. So we have these transit destinations like the Ann Arbor Saline Road Park and Ride for employment. We have the shopping centers, both Myers and Walmart, we want to say, like, this is available for you to access. You guys have a number of preserves, parks, and trails around your township, and be able to highlight, you can connect non-motorized transportation to motorized. And then we also wanted to highlight that one of the number one priorities is AATA has a robust fixed route system. How can we connect them to those urban areas so they expand to that regional coordination we talked about? Strategic partnerships, again, with those existing community partnerships. We have found success of really tackling those medical rides first, because that is an important piece. Setting up recurring rides where people see that this is a reliable service. We can get them set up where Monday, Wednesday, Friday they go, or Tuesday, Thursdays. And then we've also found some ideas of the First Ride Free program to really introduce it to the community, get people familiar with our vehicles, what they look like, interact with our drivers, and there's also potential for voucher programs as we explore with the township. That is it for my overview today. I'm here for any questions you guys might have.
Sorry, I think my microphone is off. Is the level of service being proposed significant enough to meet our existing demand for the on-demand public transportation? So the Flex Ride currently has about 1,100 rides per quarter, or 325 per month. Would the one vehicle be enough for that? And do you think that would be able to cover the current demand we have?
We believe that will be. One of the interest points that we wanted to see is the peak demand times, because when you divide that amount of rides, depending on that 7 to 7 p.m. time frame, one vehicle is enough to sustain that. Unfortunately, we weren't able to quite look at your guys' demand times and what is of interest, but I will say People's Express wants us to be a success, and if we do need to, for short hours of the day, introduce a second vehicle, we have close neighbors of City of Saline contract where we have a couple vehicles, and there might be opportunities for some cross-coordination between the two.
Okay, great. I mean, we do currently have one vehicle now,
Yeah.
I just wanted to make sure. Since riders are grouped together, can they expect timely drop-off pickup? How reliable is the service times with just one vehicle doing that?
Yeah, right now we have this 15-minute window where if you are scheduled for 9 a.m., we'll pick you up between 8:45 and 9:15. When it comes to the medical appointments, we do have like hard stops that like you are going to be picked up by this time, pending traffic or any accidents on the road. Can I get the second question again?
Yeah, sorry, I wrote these down ahead of time so I wouldn't forget. How reliable is the service times would be with one vehicle? So basically, it's mostly about the drop-off and pickup time.
Yeah, our on-time performance is pretty, like, excellent, I will say. We do our best to, on the dispatchers, as the days go on, if we see a driver is running behind, we can move that driver's schedule around. And that's where it's helpful to leverage other community partnerships, because we have vehicles that will be outside your area but close by that we can then send them in if the driver is late. When it comes to pickups, sometimes we do double load individual, or like there might be multiple passengers on the vehicle. Our software optimizes the pickups and drop-offs, so no one should be on the vehicle for long periods of time, but it's not a Uber service per se.
Right, okay. Can you clarify the curb-to-curb services? Does this mean that the riders can essentially be picked up anywhere in the township and dropped off anywhere? If so, how will that affect your ability to meet demand and stay on schedule?
Yeah, so the curb to curb is what you said, like for instance, if we're outside someone's house, we'd be out like at the end of their driveway. Now, if they have an accommodation they need, we'd meet them at the door and help them assist down the ramp or down the driveway. When it comes to trip destination, we really like to emphasize like minimal transfers in that point A to point B connection. So one of the things that we'll have to kind of like as we start up, look at the demands, but we feel that like given the data right now, we'll be able to adequately service with one vehicle.
Okay, and I think you kind of speak to the level of service you provide to disabled and senior riders. I think you kind of already did that.
Yeah.
As noted in the proposal for the calendar 2026, there would be a $35,000 offset from the senior millage. Would that offset be reoccurring for future years, or would that be like a one-time?
So the millage right now, the way we've been awarded a 6-month funding until March of this year. The anticipation is that, especially once you introduce a service for the seniors in the campaign to have a county-wide transportation, we expect that we will maintain those service levels come March, and hopefully even maybe further expand that. And the millage has been approved for a few years' time. As a nonprofit, I will say we're very familiar with braiding funding sources together in order to make it work. So we found that, okay, the senior millage might not be a sustainable resource long-term. What other grants can we apply for? Is there private foundations? Is there state initiatives that we can access funding? And that's one of the things when local communities invest in transportation, you're able to better leverage state and federal dollars elsewhere because you said, like, you've made this local investment. Hey, can you help us just upgrade it one level further?
Okay, so it wouldn't be necessarily guaranteed, but there's other options we can do to sort of offset.
Yes.
Okay, and then, sorry, one last question. How predictable would your year-to-year cost be? Inflation sort of thing. Would you be up for the idea of a multi-year contract, or is it just year by year and that's how it works?
We'd be open to a multi-year contract. We have, I think, like with Oakland County, we'll be having a 5-year contract. Some of our communities, like Northfield Township, is actually an evergreen with inflation built in, and so it automatically renews.
So it renews with like the inflation?
Yes,
okay.
Yep, it renews with the inflation built in. It's 3.1% just based upon like the last 20 years. And that is something like we wouldn't, unless economically there was a skyrocket, we wouldn't see ourselves going to the township and asking for further costs beyond that.
All right, I'm done with mine, I'm sorry. Any more questions? Yes.
I have. Thank you so much for coming.
Yeah.
I think it's a really good business, and you guys have actually, invested your life into it. So I think that's really great. With respect to the fare structure, you said, is that a proposed structure?
That is proposed. So we typically, like, I can give you an example. When we worked with Commerce Township, they wanted to emphasize those who needed most was using those services. So the general public fare was actually $10 one way.
Okay.
So that's another way you can try to offset cost, is having more, like less subsidies and more direct cost to the passenger. So there is flexibility in that fare proposal.
And how do you guys distinguish yourself? I think I know the answer, but how do you distinguish yourself from like the Uber and Lyfts? And do you think that that market is going to take over what service you're providing.
Yeah.
And like I said, I think I know the answer, but
Well, I can kind of touch on, so for instance, non-emergency medical transportation. When you have insurance brokers, they often have to opt for Uber and Lyft because there's not enough providers to do those type of services. And you find that people are missed appointments. They don't have the sensitivity awareness training or de-escalation training in place. They don't have the correct lifts. And nowadays, a lot of individuals have different wheelchairs that need to be accommodated. So because we have the different types of vehicles, from those vans to transits, minivans or cars, we can help make sure that it's a quality experience for the rider. We also, in terms of booking, like we call the clients the day before and let them know of their ride, confirming their time. Drivers, they tend to know their clients, and it becomes a more personalized service. And then overall, when you talk about the compliance measures we have to follow and the transparency when it comes to reporting, because we are direct recipients to the state again, like there is a ample amount of things and processes we have to go to make sure that if I, for instance, am putting my aunt on this service, I trust with my life that this individual is going to get to the place they need to be safely.
okay, great. Thank you very
Yeah.
much. I appreciate it.
I have a couple of questions as well. So one of the things that you have highlighted when flipping through the slides that you presented is like an overlay of our current service area from AAATA, and there are a couple of gaps. And I'm
Yeah.
looking at one particular gap being the northeast portion of our township. And I'm also just looking at the population density maps and things. That looks like one of our most densely populated areas. It also has the highest concentration of our seniors, and it has like the highest concentration of like SNAP grocery locations.
Yeah, there's the golf club right there, that there's a senior population that's not being met. And that is why we wanted to put an emphasis tonight about what community-wide services mean. I will say I have a personal connection to this area. My papa, before he passed away, lived in Story Point. And so like coming down here today was like memory lane, but I was his personal chauffeur. And that's kind of how it got me. I would go take him to Walmart, take him to the barber shop, sometimes take him to the liquor store. But that was something that having that connection, knowing that he doesn't have that access to transportation and he's homebound unless I come, was very important to me.
So driving then at the question is, you know, Trish, when you were talking about the current demand of services and how many rides we have, you know, is there a way to forecast what that service area inclusion would impact? And then if we're looking at only one car for the service area, you know, are we actually creating a bigger pinch point if we look at expanding into those service areas?
So we did look at different demand potential. So one of the things that right now we're going to maintain those service hours from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. If you were to expand that, you would definitely want to consider what would the demand potential be. We feel that starting with one vehicle from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. and offering this service on like a capacity level will introduce it to community riders. And then again, we can look at what other funding sources can we leverage, especially with the senior dollars potentially coming into play. But it's more of a, like once we start it, we'll have a better forecasting of demand.
Got it. So I just want to say back to make sure I have it coded correctly.
Yeah.
You know, this is what we do to start, but as we start seeing increased participation, particularly in a new service area, then we're just going to necessarily have to adjust. Is that a?
So the new service area with the community residents, we will have to potentially adjust. I think one of the important pieces is how we can leverage our vehicles in the area to maybe more cost effectively cover peak demands. And so we don't foresee right now at this time having to have a request of increase in funding.
Thank you.
Yeah.
All right, well, thank you so much. It was
Yes.
very informative. Really appreciate that. I just want to note a couple of things just in the differences for the board. There's an ability to customize reporting, data collection according to our needs. There's an expansion of the service. These are things to keep in mind as we're thinking about the two different options. There's a cost difference between $18,000 between the two proposals. And think about the qualitative and quantitative within that. And the fee structures are different as well. So those are the kind of the key things to hone in on of what would be the differences between the two and to consider. So,
Yep.
but that was very, very helpful. Thank you so much.
Yes, thank you again. And if there's any questions or lingering thoughts and comments, I'm definitely available to set up a meeting after tonight.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. We do not have any communications, so I will go ahead and ask for a motion for the consent agenda.
Madam Chair,
Go ahead.
Madam Chair, I move to consent agenda 7.1 to 7.9.
Second.
Okay, any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right, consent agenda is approved. May I ask for, so you got the 8.1.
Madam Chair, I move to receive and file the MERS Annual Actuarial Valuation Report as of December 31, 2024.
Second.
Okay, did you? Okay, all in favor? Opposed? All right.
Sorry.
Yeah, may I ask for a motion for
I said
8.2?
A. Yes.
Madam Chair, I motion to approve the receive and file the other post-employment benefits, OPEB, actuarial valuation report as of January 1st, 2025.
Second.
Okay, we do have Director of Human Resources, Pam Hall, and we have Corey Spit, our finance person. Did you want to say anything about that and kind of give a little background? Either one of you? I don't know.
If the board has time, I can say a few words to hopefully summarize
Yeah,
all
it might be nice.
of that many, many pages of report. in the
Yeah, I was
board
going to say,
packet.
it's a pretty big report, and sometimes you can get a little more succinct of the highlights that are a little more important for us.
Yes, so I know those reports were very lengthy, many pages long, and probably aren't the most captivating reading material either. So if I could quickly summarize for you, I'd say that the main thing to shine the spotlight on is our funding ratios, and I'll get you back to that point in just a minute. But first I want to say the township has been and is now very committed to providing pension benefits and retiree health insurance to our employees. The latter is the only OPEB item that we have. The retiree health insurance is our only OPEB. However, as stewards of our taxpayer dollars, we're also working to ensure that we'll be able to effectively cover the cost of those benefits as our employees reach retirement ages. And part of that fiscal stewardship is conducting these actuarial valuations. They're done on a regular basis for both benefit plans, the pension and the retiree health, as required by government accounting standards, and also to help us anticipate and allocate the monies that are needed to fund the plan, monies that are due. The most recent actuarial valuations are the ones in your board packet, and those were completed this summer. And now to shine that spotlight I talked about, the pension plan is funded at 70% and remains steady from last year. We're down less than 1 percentage point from last year. For OPEB, that valuation is done every other year. This time our funding ratio is 98%, and that's down just 3 points from the last time it was last time we had the valuation in 2023. And we're pleased to report that leaves us still in a very excellent position at 98% funded. So in conclusion, the outlook remains very positive, and we're in a good position to ensure the township will be able to meet our obligations in a responsible manner. Does the board have any questions?
Any questions for Director Hall?
Thank you for your stewardship.
Thank you.
Great job.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate that. Was very helpful. All right. And we already did the, all in favor? Aye. Opposed? All right, we'll receive and file. May I ask for a motion for 9.1?
Madam Chair, I move to approve the ESO subscription renewal for the fire department for report writing, EMS data collection, fire inspection reporting, training documentation, and scheduling for a cost not to exceed $21,433.23.
Second.
All right, and we have interim fire chief, Mr. Vett, here today. If anybody has any questions or if you wanted to say anything about, you're
No.
up and ready to go.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
I appreciate the moxie.
Yeah, No, this report writing is excellent for our department. It's, it tracks, the data for us with EMS runs and most important, the national fire standards for report writing. We did add a little piece to this with our fire prevention division as we're starting to inspect our businesses to make our community more safe. So that's the only real change within this. But yeah, it's an excellent program for our department.
It is something, an application or whatever program that you are currently using.
That's correct.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Any questions? All right, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right, that is approved. Moving on, may I please have a motion for 9.2?
Madam Chair, I move to authorize distribution of the draft master plan future land use amendment for the required 63 days public review period as recommended by Planning Commission.
Second.
Okay, we do have our planner, Ben Carlisle, here. I know, Ben, did you want to come up and say a couple questions, or a couple things about it, just to kind of give an overview of what we're voting on?
Hello.
That would be very helpful, thank you. And we don't get Ben here, he's usually at the Planning Commission, and so we're happy to have
Spent a
you
lot
here.
of time at Planning Commission.
Yeah, a lot of time at Planning Commission. We're happy to have you here
And this
today.
actually came from the Planning Commission. So earlier this year, the Planning Commission was considering a project on Michigan Avenue. And the property was zoned C2, which is a general commercial, regional commercial zoning designation. However, the future land use plan for that particular parcel was agricultural preservation. The application required a conditional use permit, and one of the standards for a conditional use permit is consistency with the master plan. So though the Planning Commission generally supported the project, they felt that approving it would be contrary to good planning policy and potentially leave the township in the indefensible position with regards to future litigation if they were to go against the master plan. So based on that, they then directed me to look at not only that parcel, but other parcels in the township where the future land use plan and the master plan didn't align with the current zoning and or developments that have been approved. And in our analysis, we found there were 7 sites or parcels that were inconsistent with what the future land use designation on the master plan was and what the current zoning of the property was. So this really doesn't change the direction of those parcels. It just better aligns with what the actual uses on the ground are, or what the zoning is to what the master plan calls for. Again, my understanding is the township in the next year or two is going to go through a comprehensive rewrite of the master plan. So this is just an interim step to get us to the point where these 7 parcels are essentially consistent with the current zoning of the properties in question. So there is a 63-day review period for the process for this. The Planning Commission did consider this, does support these amendments, and then the process is to make a recommendation to this board to release it for 63 days. If you agree tonight, you would make a motion to release it for the 63-day period. It would then come back to the Planning Commission for a public hearing. They would hold a public hearing, and then their recommendation would come to the Township Board for adoption. So this is not your only chance at review. This simply just gets this out into the public review process.
And I believe when we were having our joint session with the Planning Commission and the BOT, we did talk about making sure that our zoning and our master plan align. So this is kind of doing exactly what we talked about. So are there any questions for Mr. Carlisle? No?
Not at this time.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right. Approved, and I will now ask for a motion for 9.3.
Madam Chair, I move to authorize the supervisor and clerk to execute the 3rd amendment to the contract for residential refuse, yard waste, and recycling removal with Priority Waste LLC to extend the contract through March 31st, 2026 at the current rate, subject to the township attorney approval.
Second.
Okay, and we have discussion on this. We do have Director West and Director Wayrich here, and also someone from Priority Waste. Do you want to come on up, Jessica, and give a little background on it? I don't know if or is it either one? I know you guys are they've both been working very hard on this, maybe as a joint team. It does kind of cross over 2 different departments. And
We're
so
a partnership.
And it's a partnership, and it's quite an animal to tackle. We get a lot of phone calls about our waste management.
So we are truly a partnership because we share employees handling customer service. I've typically handled kind of the escalation of those services while Billy's handled some of the contract side of things for a while here. So our rubbish contract is set to expire at the end of this month. We absolutely want to go out to bid for an RFP to kind of see what our options are, especially given the fact that while we've tried, perhaps unsuccessfully, a number of times, we've not renewed, had a new contract and gone out to bid since 2009. I think there was an attempt, which Billy can speak a little bit more to in 2020, but it didn't go through. And we have just extended that same contract, which has actually gone through 3 different service providers in that period of time since 2009. The reality is that we need a little bit more time in order to finalize the RFP process. It's actually written, it's gone through legal review. We're just trying to detail out a little bit of minutia. We've explored many different options. I didn't even write it in the background memo, but we were even looking at a regional collaboration effort, which also kind of delayed some of this timing and things earlier on in the process for these services, but it wasn't in the best interest of the township to do so. So at this point, we want a little bit more time in order to go out to bid for the RFP. So that we can see competitive bids, we can see which providers are available out there, and provide that recommendation back to the board. We are communicating for reliability, consistency, and higher quality of service from whichever service provider it is moving forward, because that is what we are hearing constantly on a daily basis in demand. Did I miss anything?
Yeah, no, I did it perfectly. Yeah.
Thanks for the moral support.
And again, we do have the priority
Any
waive.
specific questions
Questions?
that we can answer?
Nope.
We do
Well-
have priority waste here as well, like I said, if you have any specific questions for them.
So, yeah, it's a big contract. We want to take our time and make sure that we're doing our due diligence on it. So, working with our current provider, yes. So, all right, thank you very much. All right, all in favor? Aye. Opposed? All right, motion passes. We're adding on a motion for 9.4.
Madam Chair, I move to adopt the resolution for adopting the 2025 millage rates, Resolution 25-21.
Support.
Okay, any discussion on this one?
And this is the one I sent out earlier. My apologies, my department just forgot to attach it and put it in the packet, so here you have it.
It happens, right? We're all human.
It'll happen again.
We do have the Director of Finance. We have, if anybody has questions on it, it's pretty straightforward. All right, I will ask for a voice call on this one. Yes.
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 Thank you. Resolution is adopted. Okay, we're moving on to unfinished business. May I ask for a motion for 10.1?
Madam Chair, I move to adopt at second reading ZOA 25-233, an ordinance to amend the permitted and conditional uses for the Valley Ranch Planned Unit Development located in Section 16, Pittsfield Charter Township, Washtenaw County, Michigan, pursuant to the September 10th, 2025 Board of Trustees regular meeting.
Second.
Okay. Any discussion on this one? We talked about this one a little bit the last meeting, so I don't know if there's anything else to say, but I'll open it up for discussion. Okay, if not, I'll ask for a voice call for this one.
Yes.
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 Yes. All right, second reading is adopted. All right, may I ask for a motion for 10.2, please?
Madam Chair, I move to go into closed session as authorized by the Michigan Meetings Act for the following reason. Pursuant to MCL 15.2681E, to consult with the Township Attorney regarding trial or settlement strategy in connection with the Pittsfield Plaza Partners LLC versus Pittsfield Township, Michigan Court of Appeals, cases 373-279 and 373-277, because a discussion in open session would have a detrimental effect on litigating or the settlement position of the
Any discussion? And assume not, but ask for a roll call, please. Voice call.
Present.
Yes.
Yes, sorry.
Yes.
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 All right, we're going to go ahead and move into closed session, and we'll reconvene afterwards. Thank you.